All right, let's talk about the Linux file system. Today, we're going to take a tour, but we're going to look at it in a totally different way, as a bustling, organized digital city.
You know that feeling, right? You pop open a terminal, type ls/, hit enter, and what is all this stuff? Bin, etc, var, it just looks like a total mess. It can seem random, maybe even chaotic. But what if I told you it's not random at all, that there's actually a brilliant logic holding it all together?
Okay, so here's how we're going to crack this. Let's use a simple analogy. Forget thinking about it as just a boring list of folders. Instead, picture the whole thing as a carefully planned digital city. I'm serious. Every single directory has a specific job, a purpose, just like a building or a whole district in a real metropolis.
So every good tour starts at the city center, right? We're heading straight to the core infrastructure. These are the parts of our city that power everything. Without them, the lights wouldn't even turn on.
First stop, etc. This is our city hall. Now, you won't find any programs here. Instead, this is where all the rules and regulations for the entire city are kept. Think of it like the city's legal code and blueprints. System-wide configuration files live here, and they control everything from your network settings to who's allowed to do what.
Next up, /boot. This is the city's main ignition switch, and it's wild how much power is packed into this one little spot. It holds the Linux kernel itself, the actual brain of the whole operation, and all the essential files the system needs to, wake up and bring the entire city to life from a cold start.
So you're probably wondering, how does this software city talk to the real physical world? Well, that happens through /dev. This directory is not for your files, not for your vacation photos. Think of it as the city's ports, its highways, its power lines. It's filled with these special files that represent every single piece of hardware attached to your computer, from your hard drive all the way to your keyboard and mouse.
Okay, hold on a second. Before we go any further on our tour, we have to talk about this massive urban redevelopment project that totally reshaped the layout of pretty much every modern Linux city. It's called the USR merge, and it made everything, well, a whole lot simpler. See, in the old city plan, you had these essential command centers kind of scattered all over the place, in directories like /bin, /sbin, and /lib. The modern plan, it brought them all together. It consolidated everything. So now those old directories, they're basically just signposts, what we call symbolic links, that all point to their new permanent homes inside the USR district.
So why go through all that trouble? Why tear up the old city map? Well, it all boils down to two things: performance and simplicity. This new streamlined layout means faster boot times, a system that's way easier to manage, and a rock-solid foundation for modern tech like containers and immutable systems.
And that brings us to USR itself. After the big merge, this became the undisputed downtown district of our city. It's this huge read-only area that holds the vast majority of your system's applications, all its libraries, its documentation. It's the bustling, busy center of all the software.
Now, if you're poking around your system and you see these weird empty files or folders like bin.usr is merged, don't freak out. They're not broken. Think of them like historical plaques on a building. They don't hold any data. They're just little markers left behind for system tools to confirm that, yep, the big redevelopment project is complete here. All right, with the city's core infrastructure all sorted, let's go visit the residential and commercial zones. This is where the city's inhabitants, that means you, the user, and all your programs actually live and get their work done.
The biggest neighborhood, by far, is home. This is the sprawling residential district. Every regular user gets their own private house here, a directory to store all their documents, photos, and personal settings. But the system administrator, the mayor of our city, gets a special place. They live at root. It's like the mayor's private high-security office, kept totally separate from everyone else for safety.
So what about programs that aren't part of the standard city-issued software? Where did they go? Welcome to this specialty shops district. The traditional spot is /opt. This is for optional third-party software you might install yourself. And then there's the more modern approach, /snap, which is like a whole new shopping mall full of these self-contained app packages that bring everything they need right with them. And for businesses operating out of our city, we have /SRV. The name stands for service. So if your system is providing a service, like it's hosting a website or an FTP server, this is the official, tidy place you store the data for those services. It keeps things nice and separate from the rest of the system. Okay,
Our tour is now heading into the parts of the city that never, ever sleep. These are the logistics hubs and the dynamic areas, the districts that handle the constant flow of information and all the day-to-day operations that keep the city humming.
The biggest of these is VAR, the city's massive, sprawling warehouse district. The name is short for variable, and that's the key. This is where you find data that's constantly changing, growing, and shrinking. We're talking about things like system log files, email spools, application caches, all the operational data that gets generated by a city in motion.
Next, let's look at two kinds of temporary storage. First, you've got /temp. Think of this like a public square or a community bulletin board. Any program can leave temporary files here, but here's the catch. Everything gets wiped clean when the city reboots. Then you have /run. This is more like a high-speed dispatch center for live operations. It holds critical runtime data, like process IDs and active communication sockets that programs need to function right now.
So how does our city deal with visitors, like when you plug in a USB drive? Well, that's what /media and /mt are for. Think of /media as the official visitor parking garage. When you plug in a removable drive, it automatically gets assigned a spot here. /mt, on the other hand, is more like a general-purpose loading dock. It's a place for the system administrator to manually and temporarily attach other file systems for maintenance or other tasks.
And now for something really cool and a little weird. The directories proc and sys. Here's the thing. These aren't real folders on your hard drive. You can't actually store files in them. Instead, think of them as the city's live dashboard. They are virtual file systems created in memory by the kernel itself that give you a real-time, up-to-the-second view of every single process running and every piece of hardware in your system.
But, and this is a really important warning, this area is a direct window into the live running brain of your system. It's for observation only. Seriously, poking around and changing things in here without knowing exactly what you're doing is like trying to rewire the city's power grid while it's still on. You don't want to do that.
So let's pull up our final city map and put it all together. You've got the core infrastructure, which starts and configures the whole city. You've got the massive downtown district and /user, where most of the software lives. There are the residential and commercial zones for you and your apps. And finally, the dynamic logistics areas that manage all the moving parts. See, it all has a logical place.
When you look at it this way, you realize the Linux file system isn't chaos at all. It's this elegant, well-designed city with a rich history and a clear purpose for everything. So now that you have the map, there's really only one question left. What part of your digital city are you going to go explore first?